Hey guys, what is up? AwesomeTheSauce here. Hope you guys are having a great day, and today we're going to be talking about the growing problem with raids in Wizard101. There's a lot to talk about here, but basically there's been a lot of raid updates with all the chaos happening with the Wizard101 hacking and stuff. I never got to make a video on this, but I wanted to talk about it today because honestly, I think this is going to determine how a lot of things in the game work in the future, including other raids that they put out. Now, I think there's no denying it. I think raids are actually a very popular idea within the Wiz community, but the execution is probably something a lot of people have a lot of criticisms about. And I don't think you can blame anyone for having criticisms. It's a historically crazy thing that they're asking you to do when it comes to the raids, right? Not only do you have to make a guild with 11 other people that are online at the same time that you do it, which is already a huge, it's a huge deal for people. Then you got to assemble a team of 12 with varying levels of skill. Some of them got to be really good at fighting. Some of them got to be good at strategizing. Some of them got to be good at communicating. Some of them got to be good at like coordinating. There's so many skill sets that come into play and so much communication and coordination involved in the raids that a lot of people were talking about the drop raids and how inaccessible raids are. And in a move that they seemed to show that they were listening with, they actually put out an update where they increased the drop rates on raids. Now, if that's all they did, I feel like the story would be happy, everyone would go home, happily ever after, yada yada. That is not what happened. They decided to take it a completely different direction. In classic KingsIsle fashion, you know, it's almost like, you know, it's like they can never do it where they just give you something and then they don't take anything in return. Classic ass KingsIsle fashion, they added like a new idea basically, which is a cooldown on the raid game. And this was clearly their intention from the beginning. It just didn't work like that when raids initially rolled out. But basically, any of these raid portals, right? If you were to open them, basically they wanted to add a cooldown where you would be able to open it for 3 hours at a time. And once those 3 hours are over, you have to wait 6 days to reopen the portal. Now, what's crazy is when they put that cooldown in, something glitched out and they put out a tweet saying it was working so poorly that they had to just completely disable raids altogether. So if you go to a battle gate right now, it says portal temporary disabled, meaning you can't actually open. A lot of people did actually make keys, tried to open the portal, it didn't open, and that's when they decided to do this. So a lot of people, I'm not even joking, a lot of people actually lost all the Azot, 625 Azot and the Zarathax TCs to make this. A lot of people lost them. Hopefully that gets refunded, but I think this creates a huge controversy. One, this really calls into question the rollout of the raids in general, what the situation is, and I think the real purpose of this video, and I want to really get into it, what is the value of the raid gear in general? I think the question of value is really, really important because I think this is something that really gets in the way between like how players and devs generally think. I think as a player, you just want stuff, right? You want to try all this stuff, you want to get this gear, you want to get these spells. But from the dev's perspective, they want it to be something valuable, right? They want the gear to be something where, you know, not everyone can get it. It's supposed to reflect a certain level of effort. It's supposed to reflect a certain level of rarity. I think when MMOs have stuff like that, it actually creates something that really people will strive for and they'll spend time playing the game for. I think a very good example of this is Spellments, right? When you see someone with max tier samurai right now or max tier lore master, you know that that's a reflection of a lot of effort. However, I think Spellments are a great example of when this effort just seems to become too grindy. Like for me to get max lore, I had to farm a lot, many days in a row, many keys. It took a very long time. By the time I was like tier 3 or tier 4, it wasn't enjoyable anymore. It was just me trying to do this so that I could have fun in PvP way later, and it's honestly for a minimal gain at best. But raids are a different story altogether. You don't technically need the gear, but there are examples of when this gear is actually something that helps you PvP. For example, right, I have the void boots for balance. I think these are really cool, and the reason why they're in many ways better than the merciless boots, which is gear that you don't need to do raids for, is because, as you might notice, the trade-off is that you lose the crit but you gain 8 pip chance. And even though you lose a little bit of damage, you get so much damage at high level that it honestly doesn't matter. And what it lets me do is, because of the pip chance that I get, I don't need to put D-Lance on my pet. I can put a Myth Ward and I still have very good stats. I have 100% pip chance now just with one piece of raid gear. So the fact that it does open up options like being able to ward while keeping your pip chance high, being able to sub in 1 or 2 pieces to like just open up an option or two, it does mean that the raid gear is valuable. So the fact that people will want this for PvP really calls into question what this entire cooldown situation is about. I think when raids are available again, we're gonna see a real issue with cooldowns in general, because right now it's a very invasive thing in terms of actually farming. The thing is, I think their intention is that if you're a you're like a hardcore raid person, you won't unlock just one portal, you'll unlock 3. And essentially, because it's a 6-day cooldown per portal, you'll be able to do 1 raid every 2 days. But the issue is, these reagents that you need in order to unlock these gates are extremely RNG. Not to mention the fact that it's not just these reagents, right? It's not just like a one-step process. In order to get Ice Azot and Myth Azot, in order to get those, you gotta upgrade the main crafter. And in order to upgrade, right, the main ass crafter, there's even more that you gotta do. You need to get 240 spiritual Azots, 240 elemental Azot, and 240 harmonic Azot. And each of these are worth 8 of these regular Azots that you can farm maybe 4 or 5 at a time maximum from any farming spot. That means even with the guild working their ass off, it's gonna take forever to even upgrade the main crafter once, and then they can maybe unlock the second portal, and then you gotta upgrade this again, and it's probably gonna be harder to unlock the third portal. Essentially, the vast majority of players will not be able to organize a group large enough or farmy enough in order to get more of these portals unlocked. So it is essentially a 6-day cooldown. And not only is it 6 days, it's only 3 hours at a time. It takes 600 Azots to make the key. I have a feeling that with this cooldown, we won't actually feel the impact of the increased drop rate. And the fact that the cooldown is literally disabling the raids is also a really big issue. A lot of people have called for the cooldown to be revoked altogether so that we can actually test the increased drop rates to even see whether doing a raid once a week will be worth it, considering you could have done it basically endlessly before this cooldown update. Before this cooldown update, these portals didn't actually close by themselves. You could just keep going for as long as you wanted. It was still very hard. The battles are still hard. There's plenty of room for error, but you would be able to do it multiple times in a row. Now, this really big new feature can't even be accessed, whether you even have the resources or not, and I think that's really sad. I'm glad that they listened to the community and increased the drop rates, but I do think that the cooldown is causing many issues in the game already, like just code-wise, and I think it will cause more issues in the game because I think the people that are not in the biggest guild, they really won't have access compared to what they did before. I think they should have moved in a direction where it's easier to get involved in a guild. Maybe have a kiosk where you can organize a group for a guild. I think they should have like a message board where you can recruit people. There's nothing in game that you can use to create a guild. Like, that's why it's so easy for a streamer to make a guild, but it's not easy for the normal person to make a guild. I think they should have also looked at the actual Azot requirements for literally unlocking new portals. They should have looked into the Azot requirements for literally making a key. I feel like those should have been the focuses first before adding a 3-hour time period where you can use a portal and then a 6-day cooldown after that's done. I feel like they're getting the order wrong, and I think that's really what I wanted to say in this video. And I'm not the only one who feels this way. If you go on their Twitter, especially under the announcement, there's a lot of people that feel this way. I'm gonna say this, honestly, the actual rollout of raids as a mechanic is frankly pretty damn impressive, and I don't think that anyone's really complimenting them because I feel like people point out the negatives a lot more than not. The fact that they actually managed to make a 12-person dungeon, and it actually does have like a lot of strategy to it, a lot of room for evolving your actual approach to it. They did a very good job with that part. I'll be honest, I just think that the accessibility part, it doesn't have to be like difficulty accessible. I feel like they can keep the difficulty high, but I feel like their focus should really be about getting the foot in the door for anybody who wants to do it. I think just seeing if it's for you is something that you should be able to do, and I think right now they're moving in the opposite direction in such a way that they're making even the raids inaccessible for people that want to do it. Like, that's where they're like, it's crazy. But I want to hear y'all's opinions on this whole raid situation. I think it's a little bit messy, very unfortunately for them, because it turns what could have been a better update into something much worse. But also, I think it gives us precious room to give feedback on actually accessing these raids, and I think that's something we should all weigh in on in the comments. As always, drop a like if you enjoyed, leave us a review, let me know what you guys think about the raid situation right now and raids in general in Wizard101. And if somebody has not told you you're awesome today, they doing something wrong, so stay awesome. And yeah.